powered mixer is, as its name suggests, a mixer with a built-in power amplifier. Aside from this obvious blending of features, powered mixers often go on to offer graphic EQ and even digital effects processing under a single roadworthy roof, as you can see here on the Yamaha EMX68S. Understandably, there's a trade-off between all-in-one labour-saving designs and specific component designs that focus on one thing at a time. But these mixers can still be powerful as well as powered. They're designed to make setup and teardown as quick and easy as possible. Connect your loudspeakers at the back here, plug in your mics and instruments, and your system is basically ready for work.
Because it has reduced the number of pieces that we need. Instead of having a separate dedicated mixer, a separate dedicated EQ, and then an additional power amp, I now have an all-in-one package which can make most of these things work. Less connections to make, less setup time, far simpler for the operator.
So let's see how the EMX presents its mixer controls in so small amount of space. Inputs. Due to its physical design, inputs are placed at the bottom rather than the top. Well, you don't want a whole bunch of cords covering up the rest of the channel strip, do you? Out of this mixer's 6 input channels, 4 offer a choice of balanced XLR inputs for mics, plus a high and super high Z 1/4 inch jacks. High Z inputs are high impedance inputs that let you plug a guitar or bass straight into the mixer without having to involve a preamp. Here, as opposed to gradual control over the input gain, you simply have a pad switch that cuts the input by 30 dB if your signal is too hot. This is done to reduce setup hassles. On channels 5 and 6 here, you have a simple choice of XLR for mics or 1/4 inch line level input for synths, drum machines or other line level devices. On a powered mixer, rather than give you total flexibility on all channels, the designers tend to give you purpose-built solutions. Here's how you'd set up a small band using the EMX68S. And here's how you'd set it up for something like a conference with multiple microphones and recorded music coming off a CD. Moving to the top of the channel strip, we can see that 3 bands of EQ are offered on all channels. This is a really good idea because powered mixers are probably going to be used in, well, let's say unusual spaces, not just dedicated music venues. So it's very helpful to be able to compensate for things like dead strings or maybe just dead acoustics in a totally carpeted bar or restaurant. In place of open-ended aux bus ends on a channel, like you find on a console-style mixer, here you just have a dedicated monitor control, which really is just an aux end set to pre-fader. And this lets you send the required amount of that instrument to a separate monitor mix. And an effects send level fixed as post-fader, and this lets you send the required amount of that instrument to the internal effects unit. This is both quick and simple. Moving down, we see a pan control for left-right positioning, and in place of a channel fader, space kind of dictates a channel level knob. Over on the right-hand master side, the most eye-catching controls are a pair of graphic equalizers, one dedicated to the monitor mix, the other for your out-front sound. Having this sort of control can be crucial if you're working in a variety of places with strange sound characteristics. If you're surrounded by hard, sound-reflecting windows, or maybe playing at an open-air wedding where the bass just kind of floats off into the ether. Since this is a powered mixer, the front panel also lets you decide how you want your available power to be distributed. Are you using monitors? If not, then you can harness all the available power for the main speakers. Do you need to bridge that system even for more power out of a single mono speaker? Or do you need to connect more speakers or indeed another power amp? Yamaha's powered mixers offer internal effects processing, and here we see a dozen or more classic effects from reverbs to echo effects, chorus, even distortion, offered in no-nonsense preset form. And if you do want to plumb in your own favourite piece of outboard gear, you can still do that using these master aux sends and returns. For small club work, especially if you're primarily using a sound reinforcement system to amplify vocals and support just 1 or 2 additional instruments like acoustic guitar or flute or upright bass, and especially if you need to run sound and play, having so much control at your fingertips is not only good, it's pretty much essential. At the end of the day, literally, you want to be able to power down, unplug your mics and speakers, and have the gear in the back of the van before the last night's audience has found their car keys. And with a powered mixer, you can do just that. A digital mixer is still a mixer. In other words, its basic purpose is the same as any other mixers: to coordinate many different sound sources into one unified mix. The digital part of the equation concerns how this is done, and the control options and flexibility with which it is offered. The advantages of digital equipment is that you can store and recall settings and setups at the touch of a button, plus use a computer to provide additional features such as programmability and storage. Looking first at the internal benefits of a digital mixer, although the channel strip would appear to be much like its analogue cousins, there is one major enhancement here. Just because you plug into, say, channel 1 on the mixer, you can actually route that input through any channel you like. The internal routing, in other words, is totally flexible. Additionally, although you may have the same amount of EQ and effects possibilities as you do on an analogue mixer, all of the settings and levels can be recalled at the touch of a button. Right, no more squinting at pieces of paper or trying to remember that great EQ setting you had on your lead singer's mic. And this goes for channel fader positions as well. Yes, very eye-catching, isn't it? Although, as you're probably starting to understand, mixing is more to do with setups and slow movements than rapid changes to your sound. There's no denying, though, the power of being able to recall these settings at the touch of a button. Here on the Yamaha O1 V96, for instance, you can recall multiple scenes, complete with effect settings, and this is a wonderful facility to have, especially if you're mixing several bands in one night. But it's also extremely useful for particular effects, a different range of EQs on a ballad maybe. Finally, the power of signal controlling effects like noise gates and compressors is undeniable, but also so is the expense of purchasing several noise gates or compressors, which is what you'll need to do for every channel on an analogue mixer on which you'd like to apply these effects. Not the case here. A noise gate and compressor limiter is available on every single input channel. You can imagine, and the smart ones I'm sure can work it out for themselves, the cost saving on this alone. A digital mixer is not just a sealed unit. Its very digital nature allows you to interface with computers both for storage and recall of data and for on-screen control, such as here with the O1 V96's Studio Manager software that replicates and in fact expands upon the controls and functionality of the O1V itself. If you're travelling light, you could, for instance, simply carry your settings on your laptop and download them into the mixer provided by the venue anywhere in the world. Plus, there's a whole range of expansion cards that let you add new features and new functionality. Affordable digital mixers were pioneered by Yamaha, and they continue to come in all shapes, sizes and prices, right up to the PM1D that we can see installed here at the Cerritos Performing Arts Center in California. But they all have this in common. Take the fun and games you can have with any mixer, and then add the almost limitless flexibility that you can get by throwing computer control into the mix.